Well, we learnt a few months ago that West Australian Newspapers, that wholly owned subsidiary of Seven West Media, is very keen to buy the Sunday Times and the Perth Now website. Well, the Accc has today declared that it wants feedback from you about this proceeding. Let's go straight to Rod Sims, who is the chairman of the Accc. Mr. Sims, good morning to you.
Good morning, Jeff.
You want feedback from the community of readers because there are potential issues, I guess, with a further concentration of media ownership here?
That's right, Jeff. I mean, it is a complex issue. The media is getting more and more complex with particularly the online world growing up and giving people many more options. But the concern here is the two main print sources that your listeners have to get WA-focused news, as distinct from national news, are the Western Australian newspaper group, the West Australian basically, and the Sunday Times. And so if they merge, then as far as print's concerned, there's just the one print source of concentrated WA news. On the online sites, of course, as you correctly say, this merges the West.com and Perth Now. You do also have WA Today from Fairfax, so there is an alternative online, but we're concerned that the coming together of the closest competitors.
What concerns have been raised so far?
Concerns about, firstly, loss of diversity of view about what's going on in WA, and secondly, advertisers saying, well, look, at the moment I can place my ads with Western Australian newspapers, or I can place my ads with the Sunday Times. I've got two people I can at least negotiate with, play one off against the other. But if this merger goes ahead, I'm really dealing with only one print organisation dealing with WA-focused news. I guess, yeah, sorry.
No, I was just going to make the point. I guess you have to take into account the impact this has on both readers and advertisers, and a very changing media landscape that appears to become more concentrated as media organisations seek to shore up their futures. The argument, I guess, in a place of this size is are we best served as a community if we have two separate newspapers?
That's the argument, and where it gets complex and what we have to weigh up is how many people these days are getting their WA-focused news from newspapers, how many people want their WA-focused news aggregated up in that way. I suspect your younger listeners get their information from just a range of online sites. There's, of course, also radio, and some people only get their news from watching the nightly news on the television. So there's a whole lot of other options and sources of content and sources of views. So you've got this mix of, as you say, concentration of traditional newspapers, but a mix of other opinion and sources of media. So weighing up one against the other is the tricky bit here.
My guest is Rod Sims, the Accc chairman. We're talking to Rod Sims this morning. The Accc is inviting some feedback on Seven West Media's proposed acquisition of the Sunday Times and Perth Now. A lot of it will depend on the extent to which you care. Tell me if you do or if you don't.
Got a story to tell? We'd like to hear it. 1300 222 720.
Now, finally, Mr. Sims, when does this feedback period, how long does it last for, and when do you expect to be making a final decision on whether two can become one?
Well, just to re-emphasise your point, yes, we would like feedback. We'd like feedback on the statement of issues, which is easy to grab off our website by the 18th of August. And we expect to make a decision on the 15th of September. Now, that's an expectation. Sometimes it depends just how much feedback we get. But the time is now, as you say, and there'll be diverse views. I think, Jeff, there'll be some saying this is just two players going into one. There'll be some saying don't worry about it, there's so much different sources of news out there and other content that it doesn't matter. And so our fun job is to balance those two conflicting opinions.
Thank you very much for talking to me, Rod Sims, the Accc chairman. And from the text this morning, and I think we can say in many ways that there will be older traditional readers of newspapers who may be concerned about it. There will be plenty of others who aren't. Josh says, concerned about the merger? No, simply it's a dying medium seeking to remain viable by consolidation. Seriously, who reads a paper, in inverted commas, anymore? Daniel says, who reads them? It's all garbage. The ABC app has the best written news around. Thomas Subiaco says, how many people read a newspaper every day these days? My question is, if you're not reading a newspaper, do I assume that you are getting your information online? And does that appeal more because it's far more up to date? Let us know this morning, 1300 222 720. I do not think that there's going to be much that will stand in the way of this decision going ahead, but that will depend to some extent on your willingness to go to the ACCC if you have a concern and say, I think it's a bad thing. Personally, I think any further media consolidation and lack of competition, it's not good for you. But there are so many other forms where you get your information from. You're with Jeff. This is Mornings.